If I told you guys that the single largest podcast in the world might have on the most famous guest of all time, what would you guys think I was talking about? Is Time Suck with Dan Cummins gonna revive Betty White and have her on the show? No, of course not. That's absolutely ridiculous. Time Suck's a great podcast. Check it out. What about Too Real for Feels? Cult Classic Cage is gonna get the one, the only XQC. No, once again, not really the most popular podcast, but let me tell you, probably the best. So definitely check out, Too Real for Feels with Cult Classic Cage. No, obviously, I'm talking about the Joe Rogan Experience and getting on Donald Trump, something he has said in the past he is vehemently against, and now his tune may have changed. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and I want to know, would you guys be interested in seeing Donald Trump on the Joe Rogan Experience? Because there's apparently a chance it could happen now. Let's get into it. Joe Rogan may reverse stance on Donald Trump. And this is as of, well, I guess yesterday by the time you're seeing this, at 5:14 p.m. Joe Rogan might have Donald Trump on his podcast after all, after previously ruling out ever having the former president as a guest on his popular Joe Rogan Experience podcast, even though he publicly shook his hand at the UFC event. And just want to throw this out here, just because he's shaking hands with Joe Rogan doesn't mean you're guaranteed a spot on, again, the biggest podcast in the world. I'm sure Joey shakes a lot of hands throughout his life and his career. That does not mean they all get to miraculously just come on his show and get a platform of up to 11 million people, sometimes more. So, yeah, I just want to throw that out here. So, even though publicly shaking his hand, Guy Fieri also hung out with Donald Trump. That doesn't mean the dudes are like besties and hanging out at Mar-a-Lago and talking about hot wings. Although, that is a really cool mint image, if I'm being completely honest with you. Rogan now appears to be changing his tune after months of pressure from Trump's campaign to have him on. And I don't really know if it's months of pressure. It could just be that the timing has changed, the feelings have changed. We're seeing a lot of stuff going on with some shady dealings with the news right now, all these indictments that are, let's be honest, quite baseless and meritless, even coming from someone who's not particularly a massive Trump supporter like your boy here. Like, we can all kind of see through the sham and facade that this is, unless you're just so entrenched in left-wing politics. Even your regular centrist individuals who don't really care about Trump one way or the other, again, like your boy, knows that this is all fake. So there is a lot of things that might be going in Trump's favor for going on Joe, or that might have Joe reconsidering, not necessarily to go out there and make Trump, president in 2024, not necessarily bolstering his campaign, but like he describes later on in the article, just shedding some light on the backdoor stuff you don't get to see when it comes to the White House and the presidency. I don't know, maybe Rogan responded to Patrick Bet David on August 3rd episode when he asked about the potential for having Trump on at a certain point in time. This is from Jonathan Kagan. When are you having Trump on? I don't know. Let's go ahead and watch this clip just to see what is said for full context. That way we don't just take what's written down's word for it. Let's hear it from the source himself. I've not seen this, so we'll be experiencing it together.
But when are you having Trump on?
I don't know.
Okay. The look,
I don't know. Maybe.
Looks like you got something.
Maybe.
Okay, good. That's good.
All right, well, right there, he says maybe. That is more than Joe Rogan has ever said before. He has vehemently been anti-Trump being on his show, often stating that he does not want to aid in any way Trump getting reelected. I'm pretty sure he had the opportunity to have him on when he was running the first time as well, and didn't do it then either, though. I could be mistaken about that one. So that does go to say that there's possibly a change in the way Joe Rogan is thinking and what can be gleaned from all this. Now, does that mean that Joe Rogan is endorsing Donald Trump for president? Obviously not. I don't think anyone who has any sort of knowledge on Joe Rogan would think that he is going to endorse Donald Trump for president. That is absolutely bananas. But there might be some sort of utilitarian reason to have Trump on the biggest podcast in the world, especially considering how unfiltered both Joe Rogan and Donald Trump are. I mean, I'm surprised Donald Trump doesn't have like his own podcast at this point, if I'm being completely honest with you. Yeah, he's got Truth Social, but it's just the man is such an unfiltered force of nature. You would think he would be an easy guest to get for a show like this, where it is just a conversation going back and forth. When you can have Alex Jones on, I feel like Trump would be pretty easy to wrangle. I mean, Joe Rogan kept Kanye in check when Kanye was on his show, of all people. So you couldn't say that for Tim Pool or no shade, but let's be real, you couldn't say that for Tim Pool. So Joe Rogan does have some sort of captivating energy about him that just makes people more or less on their best behavior 95% of the time, I'd say. I think that Joe would be able to kind of maybe not rein in Trump, but at least be able to steer the conversation in a way that would be beneficial, but not only for Donald Trump and Joe Rogan, just conversationally, but also for all listeners involved. Left, right, center, doesn't matter, because there could be something to learn from it, even if you absolutely despise Donald Trump.
I think that's...
Look, at a certain point in time, it's just like... it would be interesting to hear his perspective on a lot of things. I would like to know, what is it like when you actually get into office? I would like to know things like what is it like versus perception?
Yeah.
And who wouldn't want to know that? Like, let's be real. Who would not want to know that? And if anyone's going to actually be honest about it, it is going to be Donald Trump. You might, oh, Donald Trump, he's such a liar. And yeah, so are all politicians, so are all rich people. Like, let's be real. That is not exclusive to, Donnie J there. But if anyone's going to be honest about what it's like to be the actual president in the White House and not just give us a bunch of baseless platitudes and it's all smiles and rainbows and unicorn pubic hair, it's probably going to be Donald Trump. He's going to go on Joe Rogan unfiltered and lay it all out there, the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, I'm sure that would be the ultimate guest for Joe Rogan, not like because he needs his status elevated or anything like that, but because it will probably be the most groundbreaking thing in American politics for a former president, possibly second-time president, to go on the biggest podcast in the world completely unfiltered for like 3 hours. No, that is unprecedented. And I know I pronounced that word incorrectly, but it was for the pun. Let's be real.
What is it actually like when you get in that building? Like, what are you greeted with? When do you know that people are fucking with you? When do you know that the intelligence agency is lying to you? Like, when you decided to fire Comey, what was the thought? How much did you know? Like, what's the machine like?
I would be far more interested in the answers to any of those questions than anything that Trump could say about his 2024 campaign. Like, yeah, we know. You're going to get in there and you're going to try and get the same stuff done that you tried last time and failed at. Maybe you're going to throw some shade at Democrats and Republicans, talk a big game, and hopefully stuff will get done. You're going to throw a fit about China. And yeah, that's all well and good. Like if Joe Rogan was, having Donald Trump on for Donald Trump to talk about stuff like that, I wouldn't care. I'd think, yeah, whatever, this is dumb. We can get these same things from like CNN and Fox sound bites and mesh them together to get the truth that's somewhere in the middle. But for Joe Rogan to ask these sorts of questions, I think these answers would be huge.
What is the deep state really like? Really like? Because we have all these, smoky room perceptions, like from the Bill Hicks joke, where they show you the Kennedy assassination from an angle you've never seen before. What is the machine that runs this country? Because it's very clear that it's not as simple as elected representatives that are doing the will of the people. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't hear anything wrong with that thought process. If I was Joe Rogan, and let's say that I hold the same sort of politics that he does, basically communist or socialist, I should say. Joe Rogan, very smart man, sees through a bunch of BS, but at the end of the day, politically, let's be honest, pretty damn socialist if you look at the things he truly believes. But if I had the opportunity as a socialist to bring on Donald Trump and talk about what it was like to actually be in the White House and the government corruption, if there was any. I mean, obviously there is, but you gotta leave it sort of open to interpretation and just get these unfiltered, honest answers. It would not only be financially incredible for it, because it is going to, without a doubt, be the most viewed episode in the history of his show, but also, like I said earlier, the most eye-opening episode for the entire American populace. Not because everyone's going to tune in and just immediately believe what Trump says, because you're going to have that 50% contingent of individuals out there that are just going to disregard what is said from Trump on the basis of him being Trump, but it's at least going to get a conversation going. It's going to get a conversation going in a way that we haven't really seen before. I mean, yeah, we're getting bits of it with things like Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson and all these individuals taking the training wheels off when it comes to social media, and they can say whatever they want uncensored because they have the backings of individuals who are not censoring them. But you really can't compare something like that to Joe Rogan getting Donald Trump. That will be like a mainstream story for a week, which when it comes to news, that's like a year's worth of news time. Newsweek has reached out to Joe Rogan's team via email for comment. If allowed on, it would be a valuable opportunity for Trump. With roughly 11 million listeners, Rogan's podcast is one of the most popular in the United States, defined by Rogan's freewheeling interview style, which is also a great boon to having Trump on, because rather than it being all scripted and structured like, they probably are used to doing, Trump always went off script anyway, so it would be cool just to see a natural conversation. I mean, have you ever been in a situation where you feel like Trump is having a natural conversation with someone? I haven't. I do think that Trump himself is pretty naturally a free-flowing individual, but whoever he's speaking with has always seemed so scripted. So for both of them to know that both of them are unscripted, as opposed to Trump going off the rails when he's talking against someone who's trying to stick to a script, I think it'd be honestly refreshing in an amount of American political authenticity that, once again, I know for sure we ain't seen in my lifetime. An open-ended format that offers uncensored, if occasionally unchecked, commentary from both ends on the political spectrum. But Rogan, who is no stranger to controversy, has regularly declined to host Trump, much to the chagrin of Trump's campaign team. A recent Daily Beast report even outlined a sort of shadow campaign led by Trump's advisory team to try and compel Rogan to let Trump on the show, including plans for a reported cage fight between the famed host and former Trump confidant Roger Stone. Wow. While Rogan has willingly hosted right-wing provocateurs like the Daily Wire's Candace Owens, is it really fair to call Candace Owens a provocateur? I mean, I think that's an incorrect. I don't like Candace Owens, by the way. I think Candace Owens is a little, but the point is, I don't think calling her a provocateur is entirely fair. I just call her a black woman that doesn't say what the Democrats want her to say, and that pisses them off, but that's just me. And conspiracy theorist Alex Jones on his show, he's drawn the line at the former president of the United States, expressly saying he does not want to do anything that might bolster his credibility with his audience. "I'm not a Trump supporter in any way, shape, or form," Rogan said last July in an appearance on the Lex Fridman podcast. "I've had the opportunity to have him on my show more than once. I've said no every time. I don't want to help him. I'm not interested in helping him." Now, I don't know if last July it means literally last month, because, we're only at the beginning of August, or if this was a year ago, July 1 year ago, so a little over a year ago, because obviously if it was just last month, something happened in the last couple of weeks to really change Joe's mind and get him considering having Trump on, or he just, wasn't coming forth with all of his information back then. But if this was a year ago, okay, yeah, I could see him warming up to the idea as things have changed more and more over the course of the last year. But I don't know. Someone in the comments might be able to correct me. However, if Rogan did have him on, it appeared to have clear parameters for doing so when asked about it Thursday. Rather than talking about his platform, Rogan said he wanted to ask Trump about the experience of the presidency itself. And all these are the quotes that we heard him say, in the video. But here are my thoughts on it. Now that we've got this article out of the way, I just want to let you guys know my thoughts on this are pretty simple. Bring Trump on the pod. I think that would be fantastic for the American people. Again, not just the Trump supporters. Your boy ain't really even much of a Trump supporter himself. Now, given the choice between Trump and Biden, oh yeah, easy choice. Trump all the way. But let's say it's like Trump versus RFK. All of a sudden, it ain't so easy because, yeah, I really like me some RFK. If it's DeSantis versus RFK, easy vote for RFK. My allegiance is always to the individual that I think has the best policy and actual chance of getting things done, whether it be through bolstering or however they want to go about it. That said, I do like Trump's policy 9 times out of 10. And even for people that don't like Trump, this would be a very good experience for them to hear uncensored, just natural conversation and dialogue that's not being put on by any form of left-wing or right-wing propaganda media. You don't get any more anti-propaganda than Joe Rogan. You might not like Joe Rogan, and that's fine and fair enough, but at least you can very, very easily say he is not bought and paid for by either side of the political aisle or this sort of social discourse we have going on. He just says what he wants, what he feels, and he gets paid a cool $100 million to do so. So yeah, what's he got to hide, or what does he have to lie to say? I mean, no. The dude is usually perfectly honest. I say usually because obviously I don't know 100% of the time. He is still just a podcast hoster at the end of the day and a stand-up comedian. But that being said, I think that the vast majority of people would probably agree it would be a very honest interview, if not, an interview is not even really the right word, conversation, even if it's with individuals that you don't like. And I think that honesty and being able to step foot into a realm of individuals you don't like, but at least trying to understand their points of view, is incredibly important. Trump supporters would love it because they hang on every word Trump says, and diehard anti-Trump supporters will at least love the chance to dog on anything Trump says, and maybe, just maybe, have their mind opened by something in the process, whether it be good or bad, true or false. Something positive should come of it for anyone listening. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on Twitter where you can find me at Bolt the Word. Hey, please do subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel, nerdy news through a political lens, although I've been doing a little bit more of the political stuff and social stuff outside of nerd culture lately. Either way, go ahead and subscribe. It's all here in the nerdosphere. And this has been Words of Paradise.